Hello, Instagram land. I'm coming to you with an update now that it is spring. Woo-hoo. Doesn't feel like spring, it's snowing. But it did feel like spring on the weekend. It was like 18 degrees or something like that. It was glorious. So my update is that March has been a little bit of bumpy road. My son got a virus, which is still kind of like knocking him down a month later. And I also picked up that virus, but I was only down for like maybe 4 or 5 days. I missed 4 or 5 days of training completely. Then I kind of managed to recover. And then I went away to work, which means I was only able to do treadmill running and like no swimming, no biking. And sprinkled into that was 2 like pretty big runs. One was 37.5K of like descending intervals. And then the other one was what we call the execution run, which is 35K, kind of like simulating race nutrition, race conditions, race pace, like those kinds of things. Not that you don't run the whole thing at race pace, but a big, more than half of it, or more than half of it. And we're 4 weeks out from the marathon at this point. And so it'll be my 3rd marathon. It'll be my 3rd winter of marathon training. And my friend called me the other day. We were talking and she said, so how do you feel about your training? How's everything going? And I said, it's actually going great. And based on what I just told you, like, is it going great? Like, I've missed lots and whatever, but the bottom line is that when I did Boston last year, I came on here and I was like, lessons learned, here's what I'm going to do different, and da-da-da-da-da. The things I said that I needed to do differently, I have done differently. I have like executed on these things. And I would say primarily that has been implementing a strength training program. So I've done that. I haven't hit 100% of the gym workouts, but I've hit a lot of them. And I do feel quite a bit stronger. I just feel stronger. Like when I'm running, I don't even know, like deep into a 30K run, I'm like, still feeling pretty strong. So I think the strength training program is massive. I had mentioned on here before that I like had muscle wasted the last couple of years and like dropped a lot of weight, like about this time when the runs really get going. I haven't done that. I think I'm about 6 pounds heavier than I was last year. And, I feel mixed about that. My cognition is like, this is great. This is what you wanted. You're holding on to muscle, blah, blah, blah. There are parts of me that still hang on to disordered eating and body image things, and that are, whatever, unhealthy parts of me, I guess, or just to be transparent, that look at numbers on the scale and like look in the mirror, have like body dysmorphia and like are disappointed with that. If I'm really being super honest and transparent, I've been kind of like suffering a little bit with some of my eating disorder parts, which is, a little disheartening, but it's true. It's like what's true for me right now. So my weight is a healthy weight. And I feel like really strong and healthy and good. And there's like little, unhealthy parts of me that are being critical. So that's just me being transparent. But I've been, especially when I'm not able to do the training or I overindulge, once in a while with sweets or something like that, or food, that'll kind of trigger it and make it worse. So I've been really trying to manage that in a healthy way around like using data. Like I'm looking at calories and I'm looking at portion sizes and I'm looking at trying to increase my fruits and vegetables and my fiber, and like I'm trying to like get at it in a way that is like almost like a cognitive behavioral strategy using data to be like, no, actually this is all good. Like so I all of that to say it's an issue, but I'm managing it. And I didn't think I was going to be able to talk about that or wanted to talk about that, but apparently I did. What I thought I wanted to come on here and talk about is just a better. So I talked about the strength training. The other thing I said I was going to do is run the easy runs easier and take more recovery if I needed it. And so I've definitely done all three, like strength training, more recovery, and easier runs. I've definitely done all three of those things. And so I feel, so the two big runs, the 37.5K run and the 35K run, like went brilliantly, like perfect. Like I wish it was race day because that's how good I felt on those runs. And so I feel really ready. I feel really confident. I feel really strong. I feel really, ready for the run. In 4 weeks, when I did Boston, I kind of was feeling beat up at this point in the season, really run down, really beat up, really tired. And, I think I did more, I think I probably did more volume last year in terms of like, I missed less. I don't know if this is true. I should go look, but, and I wasn't doing the strength training and I was really skinny and. So I just feel like this approach has paid off, or hopefully, and I mean, the results will be what they are. And there's lots of things about the race day I won't be able to control, but in terms of my readiness and my preparation, I feel like I really showed up for this process and I've really showed up for myself. So I'm really kind of overjoyed about where I'm at. So that's that. And one of the factors, I guess, thinking about this run and thinking about London and thinking about, all of it is that, I had the experience this summer of like traveling overseas to do a triathlon, and we went over there like 2 weeks, like 10 days or something before the race, so that the time zone, like you could recalibrate. I think you need 1 day for every hour of time zone you switch, according to the sleep research and circadian rhythms and stuff. And London is like, I think 6 or 7 hours of time zones, and we only are giving ourselves like 2 days, 3 days or something, like 2 days before the race to recalibrate. So that part's gonna be tricky, the time zone thing. And yeah, because we're flying all night long on a Wednesday. We'll get there on a Thursday. We'll have Friday to go get like race packages and stuff like that. Saturday I'll be like feet up in movies in the hotel. Sunday's the run, and then Monday we leave. So it's just this like whirlwind tour, which I did similar with Boston, except not all the time zones, only 2 time zones, right? So anyway, so that part will be interesting. Yeah, and then like finding the right food, over in the UK as opposed to here, and like foods that aren't bugging me. Like that's one thing that I feel like figured out in terms of like timing of food, what I need to eat before a big run, those kinds of things. I've been doing better GI wise on the runs. So we'll see about that. There's, again, factors that I don't have a lot of control over and are just part of the international running vibe. Yeah, and so after London, Perry and I are flying to Halifax, and we'll be meeting up with some of his family and then going up to Cape Breton and hanging out there for the better part of a week. Then it's back to work. My work has been extremely busy, like probably one of the busiest times of my career, because there's a brand new assessment tool out that I'm trying to learn and implement, and et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, so that's been really good. And then my kid's playing 3 sports, so he's busy. Understatement of the century. And yeah, we're already like looking into summer and planning some of our summer kind of adventures and races and stuff like that. We have, obviously, we'll be building towards Penticton. Something about the training that I would say isn't going great is that I feel like I've lost like a ton of my bike fitness. Coach assures me that we're going to get it all back in May and June and stuff, but I don't know. I don't remember ever letting the bike, whittle away to this extent. I don't look forward to the bikes. When I see them on the calendar, I'm like, oh, they're going okay. It's going okay. I just know that it's not like, I love the runs and I like can't wait to go running and I'm excited about running. And the swimming is, is what it is. And I swim with a group, and that's kind of fun and whatever. But the bikes, sitting downstairs on that trainer, I'm telling you, that requires a lot of mental fortitude. Yeah, so that's my update. Oh, I know what I wanted to talk about. Jeepers. So, speaking of showing up for myself and doing what I said I was going to do and why I was going to do it and all of the things, this past week, March 19th, was the 9-year anniversary of my date of sobriety. And so every year that passes, that number, it's almost like it's like a snowball rolling down the hill. It started off as just this tiny little snowball, and now it's like this giant snowball as it's rolled down the hill for 9 years. And why I say that is because every year my awareness of the positive implications of this choice that I made 9 years ago become more apparent to me and more evident. And my relationship with my sobriety deepens and strengthens, and it's like the snowball. So I just feel like this year I wanted, I was still, it's my 9 year to Perry, it's my 9-year sobriety. He had his in January. He's 2 months ahead of me on the journey. And we talk all the time about we wouldn't be doing this if we didn't have sobriety. There's so many things that would look different if we didn't have sobriety. Like often on a Saturday morning, we're getting up to do a long run, and we're like, well, this would not be happening if we didn't have sobriety. So I just feel like it's the theme of this training cycle has been showing up for myself. And sobriety, it started with sobriety 9 years ago. It started 9 years ago with me making that decision. And I don't know if I've talked about it on here before, but I first identified that I wanted to be sober to myself, admitted it to myself in my journal when I was like 25. And so 25 years old, I wrote in my journal, I really want to quit drinking. I have no idea how. I can't even begin to fathom how I would do that. And why I said that is because of my entire life at that time was built around drinking. Like everyone I know, everyone I hung out with, all of my excursions, like everything was heavily steeped in alcohol culture. And that stayed like that for the next decade. I didn't quit until I was 35. So yeah, it's like none of this training, none of like my work, everything I think would be shittier if I wouldn't have made that decision. My health, everything would have been shittier if I would have made that decision 9 years ago. And how it came to be was I met Perry, and Perry was like deep in his relationship struggle with it at that time, and had been for most of his life, like kind of in a deep battle with sobriety and addiction and these kinds of things. And watching that up close and personal immediately changed my relationship with it, because it forced me to look at like the seriousness of this as a substance and the impacts it has on people's lives. It exposed me to recovery communities. I was trying to support him in that. So I immediately, anytime I was with him, didn't drink. And so like, cut my drinking way down right away. And so I started to like move away from it gently, slowly for about a year and a half before, like I was just standing, the reason my sobriety date is March 19th is I was like standing in the shower one day and I just realized I was done. I'm all done. And I just came out and I just said to Perry, I'm all done. I'm done. I'm going to quit drinking. And he's like, really? I was like, yeah. And I haven't had a drink since. And the most interesting piece about that is that I expected and I, thought and I expected that my life would get immediately easier and better. And the opposite happened. things got infinitely harder and worse, especially for the first 6 months. It was like probably the hardest 6 months I've ever had in my life. And the reason for that, and I didn't know that at the time, and I understand it now, and I wish people who were moving towards sobriety would know this. So I guess that's why I'm sharing this, is biochemically, when your brain is exposed to alcohol on a regular basis, and I wasn't a heavy drinker at that time in my life by any stretch of the imagination. I was a regular drinker, but not a heavy drinker. But it was enough that my brain was expecting that as a stimulus, and then when that stimulus was not there anymore, I experienced like a deep biochemical depression as a result. And it was like I couldn't make the appropriate amount of like serotonin and dopamine and all those things neurologically for months. And so that's one reason. Biochemically, there's like a big down, and like the more you drink, the worse that is, and it takes a long time for that to sort itself out. There's another piece of it is I was using alcohol to cope with stress and uncomfortable feelings of anxiety, of social anxiety. Like I was an extrovert until I stopped drinking. Now I'm like, I am clearly an introvert, and I still maintain that. Like I am pretty shy, I'm socially anxious, blah, blah, blah. Like I was using alcohol to like numb all of that and be with people and be the life of the party and be outgoing and all those things. And, I was using it to do that. I was using it to cope with stress, using it to not feel feelings so big. Like, oh, I'm very sensitive. I have big feelings. Like it was working for me for a really long time, which is why I was doing it. And when I took that away, all of a sudden I was like, it all came like crashing down on me, like all these social situations. Like I missed my 20-year high school reunion because I was like right in the throes of early sobriety. I was like, I am not going to that. I am not. So I avoided it. I avoided alcohol, and I still don't love it. I still don't seek it out, but I don't pathologically avoid it like I did in the early days. But anyway, all of that to say, I know that there are people in my life who maybe don't know all of these things about me and sobriety, but there are people in my life who for sure do, and who have followed me down this path because we've had transparent conversations. And so I share all of this because I believe that anybody that wants to move in that direction can. There are supports, there are people, there are stories that are uplifting and healing and wonderful. And I feel like I'm one of those stories. And so, yeah, I just want to affirm for you that that it's possible and worth it. And yeah, you might not even imagine the kind of life that is waiting for you on the other side of making that choice. So anyway, happy spring, and I'll keep updating you as the marathon gets closer and closer.